Y'all, I am so excited today. Today, we are going to be embarking on a continued journey that we call the Better Together Empowerment Series. Yes, because we know it's so much better when we do this work together. And you might be wondering, first of all, what's the work, right? We're focused on three strategic initiatives. The first initiative is this idea of fostering inclusion both in business and in life, as an entrepreneur, as a parent, as a professional. Inclusion is so critical to every aspect of our lives. And we're going to go deep and we're going to do some work that's going to really be about driving change. Our second focus is really around entrepreneurs and Black wealth, right? We're part of the National Black MBA Association. This is our Better Together Empowerment Series. And so inclusion is important. Wealth is important. And the third focus area is really focusing on our youth, empowering youth development. All of this is really about what can we each do to create a better world for the next generation? What can we do right now to make life better for each of us? That's what this is about. So, the Better Together Empowerment Series has three focus areas. And today we're actually going to be talking about advancing equity and inclusion for all. And we're doing it from the White Privilege Conference. So we're going to be sharing a number of video clips from an event that I went to. It's the 24th annual White Privilege Conference. And some people, when you hear the name, it's like, oh my God, what is that? Right? But I promise you, you're going to learn something today about what it is. It's going to be in Washington State in 2025. And so we're going to be embarking on a really an opportunity for us to truly drive change. Buckle up, stay tuned, check out these videos, and then we're going to ask each of you to respond online. We're going to bring some live people in to also have a conversation with you. But this is about what we each can do to drive change.
Yes. All right. We are live. We are live from the WPC 24 Mesa. What is going on, Dr. Eddie?
What's going on this year at the White Privilege Conference, which is something you should know about. It's a advanced level diversity conference. That's the best way to describe it. Here we're going beyond diversity, kumbaya, looking at issues of white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression, and how they impact us individually, institutionally, and systemically. Most importantly, even though it's white privilege, we don't just look at a narrow framework. We look at privilege comprehensively. Everybody has it. It impacts us all in very different ways, whether it's race, whether it's gender, whether it's ability, whether it's religion. We are covering it right here at the White Privilege Conference. If you're not here, where you at?
Where you at? That's a great question. Listen, Dr. E, what I really need to say is every person that I've met, they've talked about the history. This has gone on for 24 years. So you've been talking about white privilege in a beautiful way, in a transformative way for 24 years. You were ahead of your times. So if you had to talk to someone who knew nothing about this, why should they come?
Yeah, the reason is we've got a diverse nation, right?
Yes.
An increasingly diverse nation, and it's important for us to embrace that. And I think most people are in line with that. However, in addition to the growing diversity, we still have growing disparities, growing inequities.
Yes.
Some people would say the gaps around some of the issues we've been studying since 19 whatever are not only still here today, but wider.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is say, let's appreciate diversity. We're not about blaming people,
No.
shaming people, saying one group is at fault. We're
Right.
here to say, what can we do better? Not only as we embrace each other, but now look at systemic, organizational, institutional barriers, inequities.
Yes.
That's what we're doing, and that's why people need to be here. We can't just have space
Yes.
to celebrate
Yes.
diversity.
Yes.
We also got to have space to disrupt white supremacy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. So this is a 4-day conference, and this is day one.
We just
Just kicking it up. Okay, listen. So So tell us a little bit about what people can expect on the rest of the days. Like, what is this all about?
Yeah, so today was really a kind of concentrated day where you get to go into one workshop, 8 hours. The next few days, you get a keynote, and then you'll get a variety of workshops that cover privilege comprehensively.
Yes.
So we got a diverse group of people, not only attending, but presenting. And so you're going to get knowledge in reference to workshop form, keynote form, but you're also going to get some culture, some theater, some spoken word, because we can't just
some
speak from the
restoration.
podium, right?
Yes.
You got to also give people nourishment in different ways. And it's challenging,
Yes.
but also, as you're saying, sis, it's repairing,
Yes.
it's rebuilding,
Yes.
it's inspiring. And so we're not just here to break each other down, we're also here to lift each other up.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, this conference, hold on now. This conference is going to be in Washington State in 2025. So we're here as basically the advanced team. We're saying you'll be doing 26 years. Tell people why it is so important that they get ready to uplift, to take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think, again, we now know if we're going to see any kind of significant movement, it's going to take time. And so I think if people can be working, it's like building a building or building a structure. It takes some time to put the foundation down.
Love it.
And then the beautiful building or structure comes up. And why you take your time building the foundation? Because you don't want the building to just crumble.
See.
And so a strong foundation buildup will allow the conference which comes that building to last, have a lasting impact.
Love it, y'all. This is it. Day one. More to come. Thanks.
More to
God, did you love that? Okay, y'all. Now just tell me really quickly. Anybody want to share? Like, what did you think? I mean, this is what transformation is about. Share your thoughts.
Anybody have any comments? What do you think? Dr. Christie, I know you said you didn't want to speak first, but you're the only person on the call who was actually at the conference. So tell us a little bit about what it is for a white person to go to a conference called the White Privilege Conference.
Yeah, so the one thing I want to, thanks, Tracy, I want to say right off, what you see in Dr. Eddie Moore is what you get. That kind of energy is apparent for 96 hours or however, and however you're long in his presence. And the conference is about that kind of energy. It's no nonsense talking about white supremacy and systemic structural racism and moving the needle. It's unapologetically about talking about the stuff that's hard to talk about, particularly for people who look like me. And there are always people there that I, over my years, very much a deer in the headlights look like, whoa. And then there are others who have been in the work for years and years, being anything from an ally to an advocate to an agitator. So it's always meaningful to be in that presence and that energy.
Anytime you are engaging in dialogue, and anytime you're engaging in serious dialogue about a serious subject, then even if you're not sure of what the outcome will be, you are changed by that. Others are changed by that. And that change gets translated into what you do going forward. So it doesn't bother me that there are not what some people might consider to be hardcore deliverables, from the meeting. The meeting itself, is the fact that you get together and you're talking about things that are meaningful, is valuable. And to do it in a way like this appears to be done, where you've got an organized conference over a 4-day period and people can come from wherever. That's really impressive. And I think to the extent that you can continue doing that, sooner or later, something is going to strike, and you're going to end up firing something up, and it's going to have a lasting impact. So I like the idea of getting together and having a meaningful conversation over a serious issue, over a serious topic. I think that's very valuable.
Thank you. And if I may add, just listening to that clip, I didn't attend the conference, but it seems so exciting. And I think some things that stood out from that clip is when it mentioned this conference creates a space to gain knowledge, culture, and nourishment. I think that's so important. But in that same breath, he said that it's also a space for disruption. And I think, it's great to create these safe spaces, but it's also okay to have spaces that aren't comfortable, have conversations that aren't comfortable, because that creates change. And I think it's so important for all generations to, this is my first time learning about the conference, but to partake in something so powerful as the White Privilege Conference. So I'm excited for it to be in Washington. I work for the UW, so I'm excited to share this with my students here on campus because it's something that everyone needs to be a part of, a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of.
I will be quite honest with you and adding that in 1970, our only objective was to get together and talk. We didn't necessarily know what was going to come out of that. We had issues we wanted to discuss. We had people we brought in to talk about, different things. But when Tony Jackson and I visited Orlando, I think it was something like 2015 or so, when we visited Orlando for the National Black MBA Conference there, the only thing both of us could say as we walked around the convention hall and walked around to the different sessions there is, wow, wow, wow. And one of the things we had hoped for the 50th anniversary, but unfortunately the pandemic killed it, was that we could get people who had attended that 1970 conference to come back and see what had come of that conversation in 1970. So I'm a big supporter of that basic idea of getting together and talking, even when you don't see down the road what's going to come out of it. Because Tony and I just sat there and we just kept saying, can you believe this? Can you believe this? Can you believe this? That's not what we saw. What we did see was a need for change. What we did see was a need to get together. We saw that, but we didn't know what was going to happen. And look at the National Black MBA Association now.
Y'all, wait a minute. I don't think I formally introduced the handsome dude in the middle. Is Dr. Alex Gavin. He is one of the 3 founders of the National Black MBA Association, an organization that's been around for over 52 years. So thank you, Dr. Gavin. Exactly. Legendary. So I see a few people, other people. Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. has joined us. The Peace Queen is in the house. Dr. James Carter is in the house. We got other people. Oh my God, this is so exciting, guys. I need for each of you to share. I think we're gonna have each of you share really quickly why this work is so important. We do have some other videos to share, but I want you guys to go ahead and clarify who you are and why is it important that we do this work together? Because this is the Better Together series.
Who are you talking to?
Whoever wants to speak, go ahead and ask Dr. Eddie or you, Queen, Peace Queen.
I will yield to Dr. Moore. This is his child.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. You hear me okay? I'm coming in loud and clear. Awesome. Peace from Philadelphia. I'm recently recalibrated and got my mind situated, time zone. That's why I'm running a little late, Dr. T. I promise never to be late for you again. I don't like to be late for Dr. T, so I apologize for being a little late. Eddie Moore Jr., I'm the founder and program director for the White Privilege Conference, which just completed its 24th year, and we're already getting excited about WPC 25 and 26. Why together? One thing I've learned over the 20 plus years of doing this conference is white supremacy never sleeps. I don't often sit and brag about white supremacists or white supremacy, but I have to salute the way they organize, the way they innovate, the way that they have evolved over the last 25 years. And I think the reason we have to be together, we have to come together, we have to be together, we have to stay together, is because the thing that in my work that we're up against in reference to white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression is ever evolving. And that's going to require a multicultural, multilingual, I think, coalition of folks who are in different places, different spaces, doing different things, but taking the time to come together and say, how can we work together? And I'm so happy I get a chance to meet the good Dr. Gavin as a pioneer. You know, I'm just always willing to learn more, and happy I got a chance to catch some of his words. But looking forward to meeting and connecting with others, and of course, Christy and my cousin Heather, Sister Kennedy. Thank you for being at the conference, and my good sister, the Peace Queen. I yield to you, saying it's good to see you, and always excited to do more good trouble with you.
Yes, yes, yes. I bring you all greetings, fabulous Black people and Christy. Good to see you all. Again, Christy is my sister from another mother, so I claim that proudly. I went to the White Privilege Conference. Tracy and I were there. We were all over the place, just trying our best to get you viewers the best inside look that you can have in terms of what you can expect. And a couple of things happened for me while I was there. I would characterize it as transformation. Let me tell my story. I had heard of the White Privilege Conference before. I heard of it in my field industry. I work at Pacific Lutheran University. So I was aware of the White Privilege Conference last year, WPC 23, but I had not had a chance to attend. So I said, okay, let me go to this because I'm curious. What is a White Privilege Conference? You know what that is? And so allow me to be bilingual because I do speak Ebonics sometimes. So what that is. And I got there, and the first person I saw Dr. Moore. And I was like, I think that's him. You know, and I'm just watching him and quasi stalking him, walking around, just paying attention, right? And what I saw was this convening of scholars and educators and advocates and practitioners in this room, big room, people from all walks of life, different industries. Corporate is in there, and higher education is in there, and higher education, and help me with some industries, but people was from everywhere, as Dr. Moore says, everybody. And so, Tracy, that is the indicator of Better Together, because it had the spirit in the room was love. People were coming together to expand their minds, their hearts in this subject. So it's like the whole choir. And when you say
that was awesome.
What's that?
Okay, Nathan. So share the next video.
Okay.
What is WPC and why should people engage? From the founder, tell us who you are.
Eddie Moore Jr., the program director for the White Privilege Conference. What is the White Privilege Conference? I like to call it CrossFit diversity.
Yes.
It is the place where we're going beyond diversity, kumbaya. Don't bring your butt here if you just want to talk about a little bit diversity.
See,
We're here talking about big diversity, big structures, big institutions, big organizations, big corporations,
yes,
big disparities, big inequities. We're going at them big. We ain't afraid. This is where we are. When you talk about the White Privilege Conference, it's going beyond kumbaya. One area of success is the diversity in the people. Secondly, is people are feeling like they're playing basketball in their neighborhood.
yes.
Right? They talk about your mama, your grandma, your auntie. They run through your family tree.
Yes.
But when you get off the court, you're still family. So one area of success here is people aren't feeling beat down.
Right.
They're feeling lifted up.
Yes.
But it is a challenge. And then lastly, most importantly, I would argue, don't just talk about it. The greatest measure of success is not talking about white supremacy, white privilege, other forms of oppression. It's doing something about it.
And Miss Peace Queen, tell us who you are and just why is this is such a perfect connection between what we're doing at PLU, what you do already, and bringing this conference to Washington State. Tell us why this is so important and why people should engage.
So at PLU, I'm moving into a role as executive director of anti-racist leadership programs. and I can't think of a better fit than the work that we're doing in collaboration with Dr. Moore. But more importantly, there is a loud, loud cry from people that maybe are engaging in this work for the first time. They saw George Floyd get murdered on television right in front of their eyes. And so all of a sudden, there are many more people awake to the idea that systemic racism exists. So if you're talking about, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. You can educate yourself.
Hey, this is Brian K. Smith, the Human Potential Specialist. You should come to WPC because this is the place you come to get tools and experience. Not only do you get some skills that you can walk away and take back to your community, but you get support, you get challenged, you get growth, and you get to have some fun. We challenge white supremacy on every level imaginable here, and we help each other understand the importance and the value of this work. That's why you should come to WPC.
I love it. I love it.
Super, super important that folks can engage these conversations with a frame of love, community, and connection. And that's why I come to WPC, right? To get together with other folks, other practitioners, other people that are just starting it out so that we can work together, connect, build relationship. And ideally, one of these times, one of these days, move through settler colonialism to work against racism and all the other.
My name is Robin Briers, pronouns they, them, theirs, and I come to WPC because it gives me a chance to connect with other people whose liberation is important. I feel like my liberation is tied up with the liberation of everybody else. And so we get to commune, we get to be in relationship, we get to learn from each other, we get to share with each other. And without that, without each other, I don't know what we're doing here. So we need to be together on this.
Inclusivity is a verb. We need to be here in order to learn what to do, to make our actions.
Keep going. Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, to just do the work.
It is an institution that delves into what white privilege is. We talk about it not on the outskirts, but deep down what it is and how we work through that. And I will be presenting my documentary in Northtown this Thursday night.
Yes.
So make sure you come and show up. I'm glad to be part of this. There is some kind of medium ground that you can work through. You don't know everything. They don't know everything.
Nice.
But put together, we can make it happen.
WPC is a great place to be, I think, for anybody along the journey. It doesn't matter if you are just learning about what diversity, equity, inclusion, or accessibility is, or if you are pro anti-Blackness, racial equity, using more of the heavyweight terms.
Right.
This is a place for continual development, relationship building, and just being able to leverage the skills that you gain here and take them back to your various places, spaces, and to do the good work of creating equity, not equality, but equity wherever you are. So while I do agree that privilege is varied based off of our various intersections of identity, that overarching privilege is white, and it is the most powerful and the most systemic. And then next is, gender, where it concerns, male over female. But I take a different perspective because we get lost in the sauce, and then people are like, well, I don't do those things because, I also have experienced XYZ, and so we begin to minimize the white privilege that actually results in the dynamics of what Black people, specifically Black people who are descendants of chattel slavery in the United States, experience, right? And we get that whataboutism, or what about this group and what about that group, and people fail to realize if we were to just dismantle the white-Black dichotomy, then we would get rid of a lot of these adverse impacts that other groups experience, because the system of slavery, the system of discriminatory and adverse impact is based off of white identity versus Black identity. And everything in between is kind of a catch-all because those identities were not relevant at the time in which this frame was institutionalized to keep Black people enslaved in this country.
It's more than privilege.
Wow.
It's more than privilege because the functionality of whiteness and white supremacy and white privilege requires the moment-to-moment dehumanization of non-white people and specifically of Black people. So that privilege is predicated upon dehumanization, which is why I call it, I don't refer to it as privilege, I refer to it as terrorism. It's terrorism that is benefiting people.
I have been to a bunch of other conferences.
Yes, yes.
Diversity, equity, inclusion type
Yes,
conferences around
yes.
race. And this conference to me is the most powerful and requires some really deep digging because it always comes through the lens of white supremacy and white privilege and other forms of oppression, and the presenters have to be using that lens. So it's always a high level of discussion and really challenging, and like Michelle said, a lot of self-introspective work. Because if you don't believe that white privilege exists, then you have some gaps in your awareness, self-awareness, and also gaps with regards to history of this country and the reality.
You heard it right here, folks. Gaps in the reality. Okay. More.
God, did you love that?
That was
Okay,
amazing,
y'all.
right?
Now just tell me really quickly, anybody want to share? Like, what did you think? I mean, this is what transformation is about. Share your thoughts.
Dr. Carter, you like you want to say something. Dr. Carter, can you hear me?
You're on mute, Dr. Carter. You're on mute.
Oh, he might
There
be
we
talking
go.
to someone.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. Good to see everyone. Dr. Moore, let me just say your eyewear fashion game is incredible, brother. I really I'm really digging that. How's everyone doing today? Listen, one of the thoughts that I take away from all of the things that I've heard in the videos and some of the things that we're talking about is how necessary this work is. Listen, every year there's going to be a new crop of people who are added to our Black consciousness. There are going to be a new crop of people who are added to the white supremacist mindset. You know, whether they're turning 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, every year there's a new group that's going to be brought into the fold that has to be educated. No better time than right now, 2023, to continue talking about how it is better together, us being better as a nation, as a community, working together, finding common interest, finding ways to put together goals that will help us to survive things that are going on today and tomorrow and for the next years to come. Better together, it's not just one of those catchphrases that sounds really good. It's one of the ways that we're going to survive the upcoming trials and tribulations of our future.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. I see Heather. Heather, tell us a little bit about your experience. You were at the White Privilege Conference with us. Tell us about your experience. What were some of the highlights for you?
I was, and I got the privilege of having a dual experience because I'm an educator, but I'm also a photographer. So I was able to help my cousin Eddie out and offer my photography services, which was a lot of fun because I got to kind of dip in and out of all the different workshops, as well as listening to all the keynote speakers. But as an educator at a high needs, high poverty high school in the Seattle area, I first learned about the White Privilege Conference about 6 years ago. And, you know, as a white woman educating, a diverse and multicultural group of students, and, you know, I was witnessing microaggressions and sometimes just outright racist things from other white teachers towards the students, and I was just kind of feeling helpless as to what to do and where can I get some tools to maybe help shift and change the culture at my school. And I just happened to get an email from the school district about the White Privilege Conference, and I had never heard of it before. And so I had to do a lot of arm twisting and begging, but the administration sent me. And so that was my first introduction to the White Privilege Conference. And one thing I got to say is just the people that you encounter at the White Privilege Conference are just, everybody there just has an openness and a desire to learn that you don't really experience in a lot of places. And so while the keynote speakers and the workshops are all phenomenal, the people that you get to meet and make connections with that then help you in this process of anti-racism and deconstructing white privilege, and also just kind of figuring out how does that look in a tangible sense in my life and in my work, and you know, what do I do with this knowledge? How do I apply it moving forward? So I just am so appreciative to Eddie and you know, Melanie that I was able to meet, and Tracy, and just Siri X, and just, you know, the willingness that they have to pour into my life and the lives of other people, and thereby exponentially expanding their impact in the world is just humbling. It's very humbling for me, and just one of the most amazing things I think about WPC.
Love it. So we have so much we can talk about. And Eddie, all I did for this particular session is took a few of the live streams that we did. I have hours and hours of content from the White Privilege Conference, and Miss Melanie is going to be creating an entire anti-racist curriculum. So we're going to actually have a class that's going to take some of these lessons learned. We're going to be able to bring in some of the keynotes and really allow people to go deep, right? So they're going to be coming to the conference ready. We're going to feed them. We're going to get them ready, get them truly indoctrinated to what it means to have truly honest and deep conversations about driving real change. So I'm excited about that. Melanie, anything you want to share about anti-racist, your curriculum? And then the next video we're going to share is actually one of my favorites. I'm going to have Nathan get it ready. We had Robin DiAngelo, author of White Fragility and Nice Racism, on with an interview with myself and Dante King, who wrote a book called The 400-Year Holocaust. Quickly about why this is important and what we're going to be doing next. Melanie, tell us a little bit about your curriculum, and then Dr. Eddie, let's talk about why and how we're going to keep people engaged. Miss Melanie, are you still there?
You can't hear me? Can you
There
hear
we
me?
go. We can hear you now.
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just said that the curriculum is still evolving. The program is evolving. And so I think I'll stay quiet on that. But what I can say is that we're in full collaboration with Dr. Moore and his portfolio of offerings, as well as other educators that are out in the world doing this anti-racist leadership work. Our goal is to bring those together and maybe give a direction of some kind of elevated certification program under the university umbrella in anti-racist leadership. But right now we're just continuing to build the program. So maybe you can have me back when we've got it all done.
I love it. I love it. Sorry, say
Tracy,
that.
Can I just ask, because Christy being the white woman that was there, that whole fragility piece, though, I know that we're coming up on Robin DiAngelo, and sometimes people may experience or don't. So maybe she could talk about it before or after you do Robin DiAngelo, but I'm curious about the fragility.
No, I think that'll be a great lead in. Let me get Dr. Moore to share really quickly, but yes, I love that. Yes, between Dr. Christie and Dr. Moore, both of you guys help us talk about this language around white supremacy and white fragility, however you want to define it. Dr. Moore, I'll start with you, and then Christie will come to you.
Yeah, you know, white supremacy is a age-old framework that literally translates to white is better. And the ideology that extends from that is everything you put in policy, everything you put in practice, everything you put in language celebrates and equates to that formula. And so fighting white supremacy is counter to that. and really what we're trying to do at the White Privilege Conference, which I felt like was missed from diversity conversations. There was good entry level, good 201, but I didn't think there was enough space to look at white supremacy as an ideology, understanding that, but also how to fight against that. And I think Robin's work around fragility, and I'll pass it on to Christy with this quick note, really talks about once you raise up white supremacy as a conversation, white privilege as a conversation, if you haven't had a foundation where you could have these conversations, it can be fragile. And if it's fragile, it can crumble. And so I think, to me, that's some of what I understand Robin's work to be, but I'm going to pass it on to Christy to pick up from there.
Thanks. And I will simply add the conference and the notion of better together creates a space for white people to build stamina and courage around having conversations about white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression. You know, learning happens in discomfort. Robin DiAngelo's work has been, without question, demanding of white people in particular to acknowledge it, to be aware, to stop thinking in the that this is in the shadows or gone away. And she also, her most recent book, Nice Racism, really digs into the notion of aversive racism, that people who are well-educated, well-intentioned, think that they're the good white people, need to further interrogate and build their stamina and courage to face what is really hard to uncover around white supremacy, white privilege, and the oppression that unintended harm we can do to people because we think we've got it all figured out. It's a journey of becoming anti-racist, particularly for white people. It's never over.
Thank you so much. I love that. So we are going to show the video. And then, Nathan, get ready. Go to DanteKing.com. Go to his website afterwards because Dante King and Robin DiAngelo are leading a 16-week deep dive, like a fellowship on this concept. And it's starting in May. So we're going to have Nathan pull that up, the details up for you here momentarily. But let's start with the video. It was pretty amazing. And we just got some highlights. There's so much more to share. We're going to share some of the highlights. Thanks, Nathan.
People were to go really deeply and think about this, to fear white people. And that fear shows up in ways where we seek validation. We want to be close to white people to prove how just like them we are. We don't want to make them. And so even when we enter predominantly white spaces, we feel the type of way where we just can't be ourselves. The imposter syndrome turns on almost instantaneously. But going to your question in terms of like the legal construction of white supremacy and racism, early on in the first 2 centuries, during the colonial period, the British and white people are writing their intentions and motivations into the law. So, for example, the Casual Killing Act said that in the chastisement of a black person, if you happen to murder them, it's not a felony. And then that's followed up by a law in 1672, which commissioned certain neighboring Indians to ally with the British to go and pursue black people. And if you happen to murder them in your pursuit, then so be it. And then the owner of whichever black person or mulatto or Indian slave would be compensated, I think 250 pounds of tobacco. And then it's followed up by an abundance of other laws that just coalesce white people together to form a racial police force against black people, and they are rewarded and incentivized for murdering them.
So, like white fragility, we're fragile like a bomb.
Right. But I also want to state this. It's being done with a degree of alacrity and militaristic force that whichever European ethnic people are present at the time, they can't escape it. And if you don't participate in it, you're in prison. Like, there are great dangers that people suffer through and will face if they don't go along with the plan. And so what happens over time is that this group called white people, I refer to it as an organization, they're socialized to be bankrupt of emotion, of empathy, of compassion when it comes to Black people. And that is replaced actually with resentment, hate, the rationalization to rape us, to murder us, to make, like, it's maniacal. I grew up knowing that it was better to be white. I grew up knowing that I was better than Black people. I grew up knowing that I was superior. I felt it, I lived it, I learned it. All around me, they admit to it. And the problem with that is when I ask Black people or people of color what they learned, they say, I grew up knowing that I was just as good as any white person. That's a different orientation. One is deficit-based, and you're trying to prove that you're just as good. The other one is a nature of superiority. That's a very different socialization and psychologizing.
So when you use the word, I love that. That was so good. Doesn't he just packages it so well. When you use the word superiority, is that a more palatable way to talk about this experience, white superiority? Because you basically talk about psychology, kind of how you're coming from it, as opposed to supremacy, which makes you think you're wearing a white hood. Right? There's kind of some, I'm just curious.
Well, superiority is the more honest, right? That's what it is.
Right.
Do white people take umbrage to that? Yes.
So anti-Blackness is part of the American value system.
And the other thing that I thought was so great about Mr. Washington's session is that he actually talked about the faces of culture change. He also said we would be in the wrong, all of us would be in the wrong by expecting leaders to know more than what they've been trained to do better when they haven't been trained.
There's no white person that will ever be able to reach Black people in ways that I can reach them. It's like the likelihood of that, is very unlikely. And the same for white people. I've had white people tell me, while my content is great, while I'm effective, I'm reaching them deeply, they would be able to better receive what's being said if the person was white. And so the opposite of that is Robin is going to be able to reach white people in a way. And so, by the way, every white person, if you haven't read her books, go out and stack up on every single one of them. What does it mean to be white? White fragility, nice racism, this new affinity book that she just released, and also buy my book, The 400-Year Holocaust, and merge them together. And then if you're Black, you're going to want to get, depending on where you are on your journey, her books could be helpful. They've been resourceful for many people. But if you're Black and you're wanting to understand and be validated that this whole society has been set up to do nothing but harm you and that you're not the problem, you need liberation, mental and emotional, spiritual liberation, go out and get my book, The 400-Year Holocaust. And for Black people, for me, understanding that everything, the educational system, the capitalistic standards that we subscribe to, all of it has been made up. And so the more that we try to fit into these things, the more invalidated oppressed people are, because we're not figured into the equation, like they're not for our use to do well. And so when I talk about liberation, I often say to Black people who have kids, if your children come home, they're not doing well in the subject at school, don't hold it against them. There's nothing wrong with them. It's that the content that the white American educational system provides is only what it is to serve the institution of white economic attainment. And it's very limited. Like, this is not the only set of knowledge. It's just, this is what we are forced to participate in. And so because I know my cousins and even other people in my family faced a lot of scrutiny when they didn't do well in school. And so what that does to us as Black people and young children, it makes us be the odd person out, as though something is wrong with us. It cuts into our confidence. We're then shut down. And it's not us. It's all of the institutions around us that are problematic. So that's the liberation that I speak to when it comes to non-white people.
Was that powerful or what? So does anybody have a comment? Dr. Moore, you're nodding your head, you're shaking your head. What are you thinking? Everybody just jump in.
Well, I mean, the thing I'll say quickly, and I hope people get a sense from this video, this is not kumbaya diversity. It's not 101. The content that Dante and Robin, I think it's consistent with every workshop throughout every day. And that is to really push and challenge folks to go beyond diversity, belonging, inclusion. Not to say those things aren't important, but we got to begin to look a little deeper at the systemic, institutional, organizational impact of white supremacy, white privilege, and other forms of oppression, not only across the society, but also within us. And so that's what I was resonating with, is how deep they challenged us to look within ourselves as well.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I actually felt a little uncomfortable when Dante, his book is called The 400-Year Holocaust. And I was like, gulp. Dr. Gabin, you were the founder of the National Black MBA Association, co-founder with 3 other people of the National Black MBA Association, because you were like, I want to drive change. And I've been wanting to drive change, but from a little softer space. I'm in the corporate space, and I'm big, I'm black, I'm tall, I'm loud, I'm smart, so I'm already a threat. So I kind of do it from a loving space. But when I heard Dante's book, The 400-Year Holocaust, and he talks about like literally the laws, all the things like systemically where we, it felt like it was my grandmother was talking to me like, girl, my great grandmother, look at how, we used to suffer. Like, look at this, look at the institutional, that's what, because I didn't even really like to use, I don't use the word racism, it's not part of my language normally. I don't even really use the word white supremacy. Coming out of this space, I'm like, ugh. Like, it's like the systemic, not that I didn't know, but I can't be showing up smiling and then be like, joyfully, remembering and reliving. He has slide after slide after slide about institutionally the laws that were written to diminish the anti-blackness, basically. So it was painful, honestly. I choked up a little bit, honestly, and I felt like it was my grandparents really saying, keep hope alive, keep working it out, sister. Anybody else have any thoughts? You're nodding your head, Heather. Anyone else though want to share why you do this work and why it's important for us to at least look back as we look forward?
One thought that occurred to me when you're saying that is that part of white privilege is not sharing that same trauma. I mean, I can empathize, but it's kind of like a man can't necessarily identify and share in the same exact trauma of what it means to be a woman. And so I think one of the biggest challenges for white people working in this space is humility, and not fall into the temptation of wanting to be a white savior, right? This is work that I think has to be done from a space of humility for white people, and that it's the problem has stemmed from us, but it's not about us, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of some thoughts that came to my mind, is that just always checking myself, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Always wanting to be checking myself and making sure that, the work I'm doing and where it's coming from isn't about me, that it's about the world in general, making it a better place and identifying those structural systems that we need to work together to dismantle.
Oh, I love it. Y'all, we have less than 10 minutes left. So anybody want to share any final comments on that? Then we're gonna talk about actions and what we're gonna do next. Anyone want to share thoughts about why it's important to look back and then, as we focus on looking forward? Sankofa.
I think one of the important things to remember is, especially when you juxtapose this with education and how we're educating our young, just think about this. Our young Black and brown boys and girls come to school not only dealing with the trauma that's localized in their homes and in their neighborhoods and in their communities, but then also the systemic racism and the effects that it has on their larger communities. They come into the classrooms and they're expected to sit quietly and listen to the lessons and to pay attention and to get the knowledge that's provided to them. It's important that looking back on our past, like a Sankofa bird would do as it flies forward while looking backwards, we have to do that in our education system. We have to do that in our justice system. We have to do that in the way that we communicate with each other. We have to do that in the way that we work with our communities, with our families. I mean, it's really important. There is no future without us being able to have a comprehensive understanding of our past and working together and having an understanding of each other and dealing with white supremacy, dealing with trauma. These are all important things that are still important today.
Oh, I love that so much. Dr. Gavin, you're leaning up. You're leaning forward. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I usually like to bring out a couple of analogies. In this country, you may be aware that women really did not know how to play the violin for a long time. In fact, women could not play the violin well enough to be in either of the concerts, on either of the major ones before around the 1950s. And the way in which the woman finally qualified to be on the symphony orchestra was that the persons who were interviewing, that is, those who were listening to the music, decided to put a carpet on the floor and a curtain across the stage so that those who were listening to the audition could not see or have any idea of who came in to audition. And once they set the system up in that way, then all of a sudden a woman's playing was good enough to qualify for the symphony orchestra. Now, as long as, and this relates to what I consider a false meritocracy in our country. I mean, we're really hypocrites, the way the system is designed. They like to say it's, everybody gets a fair share, but that's clearly not the case. But the reason why that woman qualified was that they had no idea it was a woman who was playing. And as you might expect, that whenever you now have systems whereby the people in the audition don't know who's coming in, you now have far more people who been rejected earlier who now qualify. When is it that the work that you're talking about doing now, when is it that the things you're discussing on this program, when will that not be needed? My feeling is that when you've got a carpet across the floor and you've got a curtain across the stage and the other actors don't know who's on the other side of it, then something that might approach meritocracy might come into being. But as long as there's an opportunity to see who's there, then it's always going to be organized against us. And when you talk about systemic racism, I take a look at the notion of an elevator, an escalator, I should say. If you've been in Atlanta airport, you know that you get off the train, you get on that escalator, and you go all the way up to go catch your next plane. And that escalator, when you look at it, looks like it's going up to heaven. It's so doggone tall, so far. But what I want you to do and what I want you to understand is if you're Black in this country and you want to go from the bottom floor up to the top floor, you don't get to stand on the up escalator to go up. If you're Black in this country, you got to go up the down escalator. So that in a sense, while you may say everybody's got a fair chance, it's not fair because we've got to go up the down escalator. And to go up the down escalator, you got to make an effort. The effort has to be enough to overcome the downward movement of the escalator. But more importantly, you got to keep those legs moving. You got to go all the way up there. Now, what is important to recognize from my standpoint is that if you're a certain person or certain group, you get to go up the up escalator to go up. And there are certain people, because of the goodness in their hearts, because of who they are as people, even when they see someone on the other side struggling, they try to help. Those are individuals who are there and they don't have to do it, but they do it because of who is in them. They try to help. But that doesn't change the system. Even when you got these individuals who are helpful, it doesn't change the system. The system is still unfair. The system still always benefits one group to help them progress and hold the other group back. And to the extent that people can overcome the downward force against society, they might end up doing well. I think what we were doing in 1970 is that, we were going into areas that had not been there before. And so we were going up that down escalator. But then how is it that we learn to read? how is it that we learn to do anything? We're always overcoming odds. And so that's what we continue to do now. And that's what we have to continue to do. But the system is biased, regardless of the level of preparation or regardless of the level of progress we may see. The system is biased. And if you are Black in this country and you don't acknowledge that it's biased, then in a sense, you are part of the problem and not part of the solution. So I think the work is important. I think the work is very important because the system is one that is of sense of false meritocracy. It's not one that's going to be fair. And that we have always worked with that and we will continue to do so. We've got no choice.
Well, it looks like
it looks like we lost our host.
yeah. So I was just going to see, Sister Kennedy, if you had any thoughts, right quick. I mean,
Yes, I spoke earlier, but it's just been a pleasure again seeing some familiar faces around the room. But I think what's so important about this conference and these conversations is that we live in scary times, and our history, our culture is under attack. People do not want to talk about these topics in the schools. And if we don't have it in the schools, then where are we going to have it? I think it's so important that our students, but everyone, have the tools and the language to have these types of conversations. Because when you have the tools and you have the language, you're more confident in expressing how you feel. And I'm excited again for this conference to be in Washington and for us to have an opportunity to learn more about what we don't know, because it's okay not to know, that's why these conversations are important. But thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be in fellowship with you all. I think Tracy is back, but keep on. This work never stops.
Tracy, we were just speaking momentarily while you were, I think you're in transit.
I am. My phone was overheating. So it just kind of shut down everything for a second. So can you guys hear me now? So I just
Yeah.
want to end with the last few minutes. Like, what are we all going to do to double down? Like, this is work that we're doing. Were you able to show the DanteKing.com? It's DanteKing.com. That's the upcoming session that is happening with Dante King and Robin D'Angelo. Right? They're hosting a 16-week fellowship. Were you able to pull up the website? There you go. Can you zoom in on that real quick? Or read out, what does it say there? There you go. It's kind of weird. Read that out for me, somebody. I'm driving.
says unlearning and addressing anti-Blackness, white supremacy, and racism leaders.
It's a leaders fellowship. Yes, it's a leaders fellowship. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Gavin. Thank you. So go to DanteKing.com. There's more to come. So you can take that down for us. Thank you. Anyone else have any final words that you want to share? Again, 30 seconds. And what are you going to do to double down? Peace Queen, I'm going to end with you. The double down and it's kind of your thing. Actually, I'll go ahead and start with you. You get us started. We participated. We, the National Black NBA, participated in the People's Gathering. And Dr. Eddie Moore, you introduced us to Dr. Eddie Moore at your People's Gathering. And I was like, oh my God, I got to go to this white privilege conference. So this is about us really realizing that we can do this work. It's better together. So what would you say you would recommend for people to do, anyone watching this, to double down on this concept of advancing equity and inclusion for all? Peace Queen, what you got? And you're muted.
You would think by now I would have this down, Pat, but okay. I would say that people just need to plant themselves in their sphere of influence, and get to work. And so even if that is any way that they can increase awareness about their capacity to, just jump in. It's the conversations, it's the, just touching and talking to people to get their mindsets in a way that they're open for learning. So your sphere of influence, start there, and then mark their calendars for WPC 25 and 26, and hold me accountable for establishing the anti-racist leadership programs, because that's where my foot is planted.
I love it. I love it. And I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer as well. One of the courses I'll be leading is called Transformational Inclusive Leadership. I'm excited to be partnering with Melanie, with PLU, with University of Washington, with Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. We got to do this work. And transformational inclusive leadership is about changing at a level where you don't go back, right? Once you're woke, you can't be unwoke, so to speak. Dr. Carter, what words would you like to share on what recommendations would you put out there for people to advance equity and inclusion?
So it has to start from within. You have to get to know yourself. And then you have to make a concerted effort to get to know the people around you, the people who work with you, the people who look like you, the people who don't have that same energy as you. The only way for us to be inclusive is to genuinely work at including everyone. So my double down is that I'm going to be continuing this work. I work on the high school level with our middle schoolers and our high schoolers. And to me, the work starts there. We have to start educating them, not so much about the anti-whiteness or white supremacy. We have to start helping them figure out who they are, where they want to be, where they want to go, and getting them to look into their past, getting them to incorporate that Sankofa bird mentality that we're going to fly forward, or we're going to.
I love it. Thank you so much. You guys, we're officially ending. This is our afterglow. I'm going to let each of you say a little something before we go. So we got 4 more people who are going to speak. I'm going to go to you, Miss Heather Moore. Then I'm going to go to Kennedy, Dr. Christie, and we're going to end with Eddie Moore Jr. Again, same question. What are you recommending? What recommendations do you have for others as we advance equity and inclusion for all? Miss Heather.
All right. Well, I'm going to be continuing my personal growth journey, continuing to read the long list of books I need to read, attend, this training that you just mentioned that Dante and Robin are doing. Hopefully I'll be able to attend that. Just Tracy, I'm excited to work with you and hopefully help, and Melanie help plan WPC in Seattle, which I'm very excited about. And then just going back into my school and, advocating for my students and advocating for change in the culture of my school to begin to recognize, these things that we've been talking about today. So.
I love it. Thank you so much. Kennedy Cockrell, tell us a little bit about you and what are you recommending for your students as well and educators?
Yeah, so again, my name is Kennedy. I work for the University of Washington's Foster School of Business. But in addition to that, I serve as a staff advisor for Black at Foster, which is an umbrella term for 2 Black organizations, student groups here, the Association for Black Business Students and then the National Association for Black Student Accountants. And I think some recommendations I would give is it's not enough to just show up, but you have to do the work. You have to have those conversations, invite a friend, educate yourself, but also once you're educated, educate others. It's important to pour into self and to equip yourself with the tools and the language, but, the work is never done. And, all of this is about being better together and one of the strongest things we can do is educating others and bringing them into the fold and bringing them into these conversations and making sure that, we're all on the same page, because this is not a one person job, not a one woman job, man job, or, we all have to do it. So don't just show up, do the work, get uncomfortable.
I love that. Thank you so much. Dr. Christie.
So I need to keep doing the work. I need to stay in community and relationship. I need to stay uncomfortable. I need to continue to influence people who look like me, that race and color, we may say it doesn't matter, but it really doesn't matter until somebody else says that it matters. And that's the systemic nature of it. It's not in my control or any one individual control. So it's not good enough to just say it doesn't matter to me and not really understand what saying that means and the neglect of the systemic nature of it.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that. Dr. Eddie Moore Jr., EMJ in the house. What final words would you like to share as we send people off? Again, there's more to come. But what would you share as far as advice or recommendations for people to advance equity and inclusion for all?
I guess I should close in karaoke song, Come Together Right Now. I mean, I tell you, the Better Together Empowerment Series is a great framework because it's together that we'll do better. And one of the action items I want to challenge people with is really how Dr. Melanie and I met, how Dr. Tracy and I met. I mean, it wasn't planned. I mean, it was divine collaboration. I mean, I don't know James Carter, but I'm looking forward to working with that brother moving forward. I don't know Kennedy Cockrell. I don't know her, but moving forward, I mean, I think that we need more effort, more collaboration that's not planned, that just happens because of divine connection, divine presence. And we can't lose faith in how important that is in moving forward. Second thing I would say is really having a plan or a kind of map or a little framework. I mean, for me, the 21-day challenge is that framework that I've been using to share with people that if you don't really know something, you don't have something, here's something you can do and it's free. It's the 21-day racial equity habit building challenge. So I want to just reference that.
Can you give us the website and we can have
it's just that website. It's 21-day racial equity habit building challenge.com. And you can also look on EddieMooreJr.com and find it there. But it's a great tool for people working with students, Dr. Carter, with middle school, high school. I mean, it just gives them something easy, something bite-sized. Last thing I'll say, and I just want to thank Dr. Tracy, thank Dr. Melanie primarily for this, and that is supporting Black ideas, supporting Black people, right? Having love and willingness to work and collaborate with Black folks. And it's the old Black Wall Street model that we're excited to celebrate next year at WPC 25, and to follow up on that, coming to Tacoma, Seattle area to bring WPC 26. But I just want to be celebrating and saluting folks who are willing to collaborate, support Black ideas, Black genius, Black excellence. My cousin, I mean, we kind of knew each other, showed up at the conference and not taking over as white people sometimes do, but following Black leadership. I appreciate that. And Dr. Tracy, Dr. Miller, I just can't, again, say thank y'all for believing in me, supporting me, and continue to collaborate with me. And I'm looking forward to more good trouble. That's all I got.
I don't know what more we could say. That sounds like a drop the mic moment right there to me. You know, I am really grateful that you mentioned divine connections, because I actually, been having my own personal journey. And when I think about each of you, I am blessed, grateful. I met Dr. Melanie, and it's like the people's gathering. What? Like, where have you been all of my life? And I felt the exact same way with the White Privilege Conference, the Privilege Institute. I can't wait to get engaged with the 21-day challenge. There's so much we're going to do together. So I'm just going to say I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and more to come, y'all. We got this. My company is called It's All Bigger Than Me, and I like to say, it's bigger than me, but together it's not bigger than us, y'all. We got this. Thanks.
Thank you.